Okay, sorry, I'm gonna get this up on the. So, how do I do this? I just click mirroring. Home theater. 8088. Okay. Okay, so 2.2.8.
Flip it. Oh, wow, that's the verse is strong.
Somebody else is taking it?
No.
Yeah. Somebody else is doing this?
That's me.
That's you? Okay.
Chapter 2.
In chapter 2, text 8. Okay, so you've gone live yet? Not yet? Okay. All right. Kechit swadi antaha. Within the, so do you want me to read in the top verse? Okay, I'll do the top verse. Okay.
If you're doing the top verse, then you let us know if you're doing the word to word.
Okay, I'll do the top verse here. Hridayavakase pradesha matrang purushang vasantam chaturbhujang kanja ratanga shankha gadadharam dharanaya smaranti. Okay. Kechit swadihantara hridayavakase pradesha matrang purushang vasantam chaturbhujang kanjaratanga shankha gadadharang dharanaya smaranti. Kechit swadihantara hridayavakase pradesha matrang purushang vasantam chaturbhujang kanjaratanga shankha gadadharang dharanaya smaranti. Kechit swadihantara hridayavakase pradesha matrang purushang vasantam chaturbhujang kanjaratanga shankha gadadharang dharanaya smaranti.
Kechit swadehantara pradesha matram purusham vasantam chaturbhujam kanjarathanga shankha gadadharam dharanaya smaranti.
Kechit swadehanta hridayavakashe pradesha matram purusham vasantam chaturbhujam kanjarathanga shankha gadadharam dharanaya smaranti.
Kechit swadihantara hridayavakase pradesha matram purusham vasantam chaturbhujam kanjaratanga shankha gadadharam dharanya smaranti.
Mataji's? Oh no, you want to go yours? No. Swadihantara hridayavakase
Pradeshamatram purusham vasantam.
Chaturbhujam khajam prajanka sankha
Chaturbhujam kanjaratanga shankha.
Gadadaharam dharanyaya snati
Gadadharam dharanaya smaranti.
Kechit Swadhyanta
Hridayavakashe. Pradeshamatram purusham vasantam. Chaturbhujam kanjaratanga shankha. Gadadharam dharanaya smaranti. Kechit svadehantarhridayavakashe. Pradeshamatram purusham vasantam. Chaturbhujam kanjaratanga shankha. Gadadharam dharanaya smaranti. Kechit svadehantarhridayavakashe. Pradeshamatram purusham vasantam. Chaturbhujam kanjaratanga shankha. Gadadharam dharanaya smaranti.
Okay, so Kechit, others, Swadehantaha, within the body, Hridayavakashi, in the region of the heart, Pradesha, Matram, measuring only 8 inches, Purusham, the personality of Godhead, Vasantam, residing, Chaturbhujam, with 4 hands, Kanja, lotus, Ratanga, the wheel of a chariot, Shankha, conch shell, Gadadharam, with a club in the hand, Dharanaya, conceiving in that way, Smaranti, do meditate upon him. Okay, translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. Others conceive of this personality of Godhead residing within the body in the region of the heart and measuring only 8 inches, with 4 hands, carrying a lotus, a wheel of a chariot, a concho, and a club, respectively. Purport. The all-pervading personality of Godhead resides as Paramatma in the heart of each and every living entity. The measurement of localized personality of God is estimated to expand from the end of the ring finger to the end of the thumb, more or less 8 inches. The form of the Lord, described in this verse with distribution of different symbols, begins from the lower right hand up and down to the lower left hand with lotus, wheel of a chariot, concho, and club, respectively. It's called Janardhan, or the plenary portion of the Lord who controls the general mass of people. There are many such forms of the Lord with varied situations of the symbols of lotus, concho, etc. And they are differently known as Purushottama, Achyuta, Nrsimha, Trivikrama, Rishikesha, Keshava, Madhava, Aniruddha, Pradyumna, Sankarshana, Sridhara, Vasudeva, Damodara, Janardana, Narayana, Hari, Padmanabha, Vamana, Madhusudana, Govinda, Krishna, Vishnumurti, Adokshaja, and Upendra. These 24 forms of the localized personality of Godhead are worshipped in different parts of the plenary system, and each form is an incarnation of the Lord, having a different Vaikuntha planet in the spiritual sky, which is called the Paravyoma. There are millions of other forms of the Lord, and each and every one of them has a particular planet in the spiritual sky.
Different, huh? Okay, anyways. Little different, nothing much. Here it says hundreds and scores. It says millions.
Is this the older one? Yeah, it is, right? Because this is the newer print. each and every one of them have a particular planet in the spiritual sky, of which this material sky is only a fragment offshoot. The Lord exists as Purusha, or the male enjoyer, although there is no comparing him to any male form in the material world. But all such forms are Advaita, non-different from one another, and each of them is eternally young. The young Lord with 4 hands is nicely decorated as described below. Om Jnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmitamena Tasmai Shri Guru Namah Shri Chaitanya Manomishtam Stapitamena Bhutale Swayam Rupakadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yatapatakamanam Shri Gurum Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadhuitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitam Sha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishavanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriya Panchakalpataruvesha Kripa Sindhibhyo Vacha Patitanam Pavinibhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Buddhale Shrimate Bhakti Vikasa Swami Nityanamane Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Buddhale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nityanamane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschate Desasarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivas Adi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jnanananda Mayam Devam Nirvanashpatakakritim Adaram Sarva Vidyanam Hayagrivam Upasmahe. So we're discussing upon the, well, one thing I want to say is that this Srimad Bhagavatam is very scientific process of self-realization. So the details of the personality of Godhead in his different aspects are given in complete. So it is very important to understand this, because it's not that we've come up with this philosophy or we've made this up and along the way we're adding things and subtracting things. It's not like tomorrow. We're not philosophers. We don't we don't say, oh, this theory didn't work, therefore we have to adjust it in some way. But the information of the Bhagavatam is given with absolute knowledge, and that absolute knowledge includes the 3 aspects of the Supreme Personality of Godhead: his form as Bhagavan, his expansion as the Paramatma, and then the effulgent Brahman also. So the Vedas, or the Vedas, they propound the knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in complete full, because Veda literally means knowledge. So, and we see many Veda Angas. There's different parts of the Vedas that describe different that have different purposes. Some have the purposes of material perfection. You could say there is no such thing, but you could say endeavoring materially, becoming some sort of success in the material world, some punya karma. You're gonna endeavor for religious activities in order to gain the heavenly planets. So the Krishna, who is the propounder of the Vedas, who is the subject of the Vedas, who is the goal of the Vedas, we're being given this knowledge of the super soul. And so it's very interesting how in the Bhagavad Gita Krishna describes the soul to be the 10,000ths, 10 thousandths of a hair? That's what is described, the size of the soul.
It's 1 millionth of the tip of it.
1 millionth.
Because you divide it by 10,000, you divide it by another 10,000.
Another 10,000. 1 millionth of the hair. But then we read here, the super soul is, this is the ring finger, right? This one right here. Ring finger from the...
Anyways, whatever.
Yeah. I thought it was 1/10,000th of it. Yeah. Okay, so it's described here that the super soul, he is estimated to expand from the end of the ring finger to the end of the thumb. So from here to here.
But yeah, if you expand it and you fold all the other fingers.
Right.
Somehow.
It's hard to do that, but it's about that size, right?
It comes to about 8 inches.
8 inches. But the super soul is about 8 inches, and the soul itself, the soul itself is about 1/10,000th of a tip of a hair. So there's like a huge difference that's established, even seeing the Supreme and seeing the Self. Even, we say qualitatively we're the same, but quantitatively we're different. that's even seen with the size of the super soul and the soul itself. I mean, a lot of descriptions say that the soul is sitting next to the super soul is sitting right next to the soul. They sit in the heart together. But there seems to be a huge difference in size here. That the soul itself is very minute, and the super soul, if you compare 1/10,000 to 8 inches, that's huge. You're messing with a couple of powers here. What is like 4 powers, 4 zeros? 0.0000, yeah. And then you had 8 inches. So 8 inches is about that big, I guess. And so I'm from Australia, so I work in meat and I'm still trying to figure it out. So you can see the difference in the soul and the super soul. Just even within comparison, even you could say spiritually, the size of the soul itself, and then he's looking at the super soul. So we see here that this is being described, and the form of the super soul is being described. It's not that the super soul is there in some vague light and has no hands and no legs. It's just there, and it's the all-knowing, pervading thing that's there. But it's actually described how he's carrying a lotus, a wheel, a conch, and a club, respectively. Generally a person carries all these things. He has personality, that his 4 hands carry that. His form is very beautiful. Is it in the other Bhagavatam that there is a very beautiful picture of the super soul? No, it's okay. When you search, if you ever search on Google, that one right there, right? There's that one, and then there's another one in one of the bigger books. It's like very beautiful. I've used it as a cover for this.
Not the SSR.
Not the SSR. There's one on he's like standing on a lotus, and it's very beautifully done.
On the left?
Can't remember.
Where the yogi is sitting in.
I could pull it. You could pull it up. Search the super soul. It's a very beautiful feature. It's a very beautiful. Obviously, it's a description also, but the form.
You're not going to get anything.
Oh my God! There it is. That one there.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, that's the one. But there's a height. No, not that one. The other one. That one. There you go. It's a very beautiful form of the Lord. It's very. I guess that's meant to be blue, but it looks green. I don't know. I got to look at the descriptions on that one.
Yeah, there was one where the yogi is sitting in.
That one, right? Yeah. Or this one. It's pretty similar. Very beautiful form of the Lord. Yeah, this one's a very beautiful one too. So the yogi meditating upon the heart, within the heart and meditating upon the Paramatma. And it's described that he's holding all these different, carrying a lotus, a chariot, concho, and club. And so when you read in the Chaitanya, like we're chanting these mantras every day, right? Everybody's chanting Om Keshavaya Namah, Om Narayana Namah, Om Madhavaya, Om Govindaya. So all these names, do we know what we're chanting? What? Yeah, the names of Vishnu, but like what those forms, why we chant, what's the difference, like why are we chanting those forms? Yeah, it's given in Shastra to put that in that particular order. But also all these different, see, how do we identify which form of Vishnu is who? Like how do we identify Keshava and Madhava?
Based on what they're holding.
Right, based on what they're holding. So in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's a huge, just a whole chapter dedicated to these forms that we chant every day. It describes how the Lord holds, what He holds, and where He holds it, in which hand. And it says that actually when we're putting tilak on, that our meditation should be on that form as we're putting tilak on. And when we do that, the Lord comes and sits in the middle of this, where these two lines are, and He comes and resides there. And so the body is like a temple of the Lord, where the Lord comes and resides. There is the Paramatma Himself, which as Prabhupada says, he's Janardana. So does that mean that also Janardana, there's a particular different names for different super souls, or it's like Janardana is the soul that's situated in the heart? Do you know?
Also known as Janardana?
It says that in the Prabhupada, Prabhupada says that this is what's described as the super soul sitting within the heart. So Prabhupada says this form pretty much says the form of the Lord described in this verse with distribution of different symbols beginning from the lower right hand up and down to the lower.
This one is Janardana.
Right, this one is...
Exactly what he's describing.
Right. So, but he says that this is the region, this is that he resides, this particular form resides within the heart. So Janardhan resides within the heart? Wow, that's pretty, okay. So, this particular form of the Lord, which is Janardhan, resides within the heart. And we've all read the Bhagavad Gita, pretty much. Chitta Girish, you're on the offering. Oh, you gotta go. I thought you gotta go anyway. Okay, I thought you gotta go at 10 o'clock. So maybe Avadhu Chandra Prabhu could do the offering. That would be the best. So this right here is describing the super soul in the heart. This is the soul that's sitting within our heart. So in the different processes of yoga, we'll see Kapila Dev propound this, we'll see Rishabh Dev talk about this. And throughout the whole Bhagavatam, basically this is the process of yoga, is one generally meditates upon the super soul. That when he does meditation, he sees like it says in the Bhagavad Gita, that the person, he sees the super soul within everyone's heart, that he sees the person as a soul, and he also sees the super soul. And it's described in the Bhagavatam also that just like in a tree, there's two birds sitting on the tree. One is enjoying all the fruits of the tree, and the other, which is the super soul, is simply waiting for that bird to notice that super soul is there, and that his actual real enjoyment is actually in turning back to that other bird that's sitting on the tree. So what is the purpose of the super soul? What is the purpose of the super soul? Why is the super soul there, traveling with the jiva, going on this journey of material existence? Why does Krishna, as the students, expand himself in the form of a super soul to travel with the jiva for billions and trillions and basically eternity? If you think about it, why does he have to travel along? Why does he have to do all these things? What is the purpose of the super soul?
Upadrashta Anumanta. He does two functions. One is you oversee. Upadrashta is the observer. He's the witness.
He is the witness of all.
Upadrashta Anumanta, he is the one who gives permission.
He gives permission and witnesses. He's a sanctioner. That's the word that's used. He's the sanctioner and the witness. And that's the two words that's used in the Bhagavad Gita. So he's a sanctioner and he's a witness. But it's also stated in the Bhagavatam that he particularly allows the conditioned soul, which is influenced by material nature, to try to enjoy. So I think this is in the, I think this must be in the first chapter. Okay, hang on a sec. Okay, so this is the first canto, second chapter, 33. The super soul enters in the bodies of created beings who are influenced by the modes of material nature and causes them to enjoy the effects of these modes by the subtle mind. So the super soul, he allows the living entity who has come into this world to try to be Krishna himself. So when the super soul is there to actually guide as the Bhagavad Gita says, that he gives knowledge and remembrance, and he gives knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. So the super soul within the heart is there to guide the living entity. And in that process of guiding the living entity through this material world, giving him his actions and reactions, he causes them to enjoy the effects of these modes by the subtle mind. He allows them to try to get that enjoyment that they wanted when, basically envious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But at the same time that he is there waiting for the living entity to realize his actual position as a servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he says the all-pervading Personality of Godhead resides as Paramatma in the heart of each and every living entity. And then he goes on to describe this and the size of it. And then along there he goes on to describe all the different forms of the Lord that are there as the Super Soul. So the Super Soul's function primarily is to give knowledge and forgetfulness and to allow that jiva to travel within this universe and eventually bring him to the stage of perfection. In different ways. Sometimes, frustration, sometimes giving so much wealth, sometimes doing all these things according to one's own activities. So it says that the Sri Hari, the Supreme Personality Godhead, is the super soul and guide of all living entities who have accepted material bodies within this world. He is the supreme controller of all material activities in material nature. He is also our best friend, and everyone should take shelter of him at his lotus feet. So, and of course we have Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam Hirdesi Arjuna Tishtati Brahmayan Sarva Bhutani Yantra Rudrani Mayaya. That the Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, O Arjuna, and is directing the wanderings of all living entities who are seated as machines made of the material energy. So the Supreme Personality of Godhead is directing the jiva, the soul, through the journey of material existence. And so the super soul is also called Cheta Guru. That he is the Guru himself is a manifestation of the Cheta Guru. That's Sakshad Hari. That Sakshad Hari, he's non-different to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So there is two Gurus. There is the Cheta Guru within the heart, who is our guide, and then there is the Guru, the Guru who is manifested, who is our Diksha Guru, or also a Shiksha Guru, you could say. And so, as we Brahmande Brahmite Kona Bhagyavan Jiva, Guru Krishna Prasade Paye Bhakti Lata Bija. That by the grace of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we get Krishna, and we get Guru, and by the grace of Guru, we get Krishna. So there is a transcendental relationship between the Super Soul and the Guru. The Super Soul gives, the Guru is very close with the Super Soul. That the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the Guru himself are very intimately related. That's why the Guru, he knows his disciples. So the Guru knows the heart of his disciples. He can read so many pastimes from Srila Prabhupada and his disciples, or hear that Srila Prabhupada would know what his disciples needed, or what they'll be thinking about something, they'll be meditating upon something. And just like S.B-2.2.8 Prabhu was telling us some pastimes, how he really wanted to touch Prabhupada's feet or something, and then he was like sitting below the cart of Jagannath, and Prabhupada came, and he just, he was trying to get the glance of Srila Prabhupada, or was he trying to touch his feet? There's a few stories like that. And then Prabhupada just came and was just looking at him for very long periods of time. And he said he wasn't surrendering. He just wasn't surrendering. But when Srila Prabhupada did this, he could understand from the information that the Super Soul is providing to Srila Prabhupada that this person, this is what he needs. And he provided, and S.B-2.2.8 Prabhu said, when he looked at me, I could see that he knew everything about me. Because what is the Super Soul? The Super Soul is all pervasive. He knows the past, the present, and the future. So because the spiritual master is in a very close relationship with the Super Soul, then he no longer, he has all the information he needs. So there's nothing that we can hide from the spiritual master. Just like we can't hide anything from the Super Soul, all our, bogus things that we do on the side, and all the cheating and the lying that we may do, or all the service that we may do on the side that nobody notices, all these little things that we do for Krishna that we don't do according to the schedule, nobody told us to do it, we just go and do it of an hour, nobody congratulates us, nobody even notices you. But the Super Soul within the heart notices that, and the Guru, he received that information from the Super Soul. So the Guru is pleased with the disciples, not on the basis of some material merit that I've distributed so many books. That's there, of course, the Guru is pleased by hearing that. But that I've done so much cooking, or I've given so many nice lectures. But the Guru is pleased, the Super Soul is pleased on the platform of the attitude of the follower, as Srila Prabhupada often says. the attitude of the follower is very much devotional, that he himself does not consider his own circumstances to be very important, but goes on serving independent of what is going on. Where the whole movement is going down in shambles, there's nothing to be, everyone hates us as a Hare Krishna movement, or all the people are falling down, or there is no consideration and there's no recognition at all. There's so many devotees within this movement that we've never heard of, that have done so many great things that we've never heard of, and they'll never tell you what they did either. But they're all glorious because the super soul is there, and therefore the guru also knows his activities. And so when that connection is there between the soul and the guru, the disciple is always engaged according to his propensities, as long as the disciple is sincere. So the super soul's function, in one way, when we're forgetful, is that he allows us to forget, and he allows us to try to enjoy. Basically, the super soul tries to fulfill what man proposes, God disposes. So you propose you want to be a great person, okay, in the next life I'll make you a rich person if you have enough pious activity. If you've acted properly, as Bhagavatam is saying, you'll receive the reactions according to your nature, according to the modes of material nature that you have functioned upon. So according to your modes of material nature, you create different karmas, different activities. And then the activities create certain reactions. And according to that, the super soul will fulfill your desire. You want to have a lot of sex? Okay. The mode of material nature you're in is in ignorance? Okay, I'll make you a monkey. Your mode of material nature you're in is goodness? Okay, I'll make you maybe a very rich man who can have very many girlfriends and so many prostitutes and all this. So according to the modes of material nature, that reaction is experienced, and then the super soul provides the proper facility that the soul desires to, not the soul, you could say the covering of the soul itself desires to enjoy. So the super soul, he goes on doing this, and eventually, actually the super soul is there within the heart, and eventually the purpose of the super soul being that, and this philosophy isn't there in Christianity, is that he's meant to bring you back to your original position, bring you back to serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And actually, I think it comes in the Bhagavatam later, that when one actually finishes off sheds all his material coverings, actually the super soul, when one returns back home, back to Godhead, the super soul actually no longer remains with you. He leaves, and then you go back home, back to Godhead, to Goloka Vrindavan, and then you serve that soul within the heart that you've been meditating upon all your life. It's interesting, like how Prabhupada saying is that this form of the Lord is Janardhan within the heart, but Prabhupada would say that there's Shyamasundar within my heart. There's this pastime where it's like, there's super soul, but in my heart there's Shyamasundar. So he's meditating upon Krishna in the form of Shyamasundar. So when one is situated on that platform, he comes eventually by the mercy of the super soul and the devotees of the Lord. He comes to this level of realization, and that form that he's been meditating upon all his life, he attains the service to that form. Just like we're meditating upon, specifically in the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition, we're meditating upon the forms of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda. So specifically for the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, it's stated that we get two forms in the spiritual world. We get a form in Gaura Leela, and we get a form in Krishna Leela, where we're able to serve the Lord of the heart, which is Krishna, and who's expanded as Lord Chaitanya, to come and give the mercy of the Lord. So these are both eternal pastimes that one can get absorbed in, the beautiful pastimes of the Lord. And for us, I don't know how how to exactly say this, but the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya we are experiencing already to a great extent, to the level of how conscious we are it's going on, or how conscious we're not is going on. If we're conscious of it, then we'll be absorbed in it. If we're not conscious of it, then we'll be in our mental state of being this mental all the time of maybe this, maybe that, maybe this. So actually we're trying to absorb ourselves into this pastimes of the Lord and in the form of the Lord, and understand the form of the Lord, and eventually come to the level of serving that Lord. But fortunately for us, the means and the goals are the same. We're not like the yogis. We don't sit here and meditate, and that's one process, and then you meditate within the heart on the Supreme Personality of Godhead in this form, and then you go to Vaikuntha, and then you start serving. But for us, it's not like that. We're meditating upon Gaur Nitai every day. We're meditating upon Lord Shyamasundar and Radha and Shyamasundar every day. But practically, we're engaged in that service of Gaur Nitai, spreading the Sankirtan movement. And for the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, this is like the Hridaya. That Bhaktivinoda Thakur often says, Hridaya Nache, that my heart is dancing. He's dancing, and he's dancing, seeing the forms of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda. So for the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, in their hearts and their consciousness is fully absorbed in the mood of Lord Chaitanya and the form of Lord Chaitanya, Nityananda Prabhu, and our Acharyas. So for the Gaudiya Vaishnava, that meditation upon the heart is more or less done on Sankirtan. Is done on Sankirtan, the activity of Sankirtan, the worship of Sankirtan. Who is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? What's this verse? Lord Chaitanya is the propounder of Sankirtan. And then what's the whole? Do you know the whole verse? Or maybe that's just the line that.
Oh, well, this is what Guru Maharaj says, but there's the verse.
It's like comes in like the first in the Adi Leela. He's the inaugurator of Sankirtan movement.
Right.
This was in Ram Roy Prabhu used to quote this a lot. Lord Chaitanya is the inaugurator of the Sankirtan. You know this? Huh?
Bhagavatam?
Yeah.
Oh, that's Bhagavatam.
Oh, that's Bhagavatam.
Okay,
Srimad Bhagavatam. You know anyways, I guess we can't pull it up. Krishna. Pangashta Parshadam. Sanktana Praya. So Lord Chaitanya, he established his Sankirtan movement, and by engaging in the Sankirtan movement, it is non-different from associating with Lord Chaitanya. Because when we're out there, we're thinking about Lord Chaitanya, we're meditating upon Lord Chaitanya. Specifically, the way we're doing that is meditating upon the Guru. Because the Guru is a personal servant of Lord Chaitanya. He has come to give the mission, just like Gauravani Pracharine. The Lord is, the Prabhupada or the Guru has come to do Gauravani Prachar. Gauravani means, Gaura means Lord Chaitanya, Vani means the instruction, and Prachar means to preach. So the spiritual master, he's a personal servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And as we understand from Prahlad Maharaj, the Guru, my spiritual master, he has saved me. So he is my object. He's first in line. The object of my service is my spiritual master. How can I let go of his service? So we do what the Guru tells us, and in that way we're absorbing ourselves in the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. It is the spiritual world. Often people ask, so when can we go to the spiritual world? It's right here. Actually, many times in the Bhagavatam, in the Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada says so many times that actually it's the consciousness of the person, whether he's in the material world or the spiritual world. Actually, he says everything, all this energy that we see, or whatever, this rose, he often gives the example of a rose. Actually, the rose is spiritual. But as long as one's consciousness is that this is Krishna's enjoyment. But it becomes material when one sees it as, oh, this is for me. Actually, he says, it's already spiritual. It's originally spiritual, but we make it material. So how can one absorb oneself in the spiritual world? How can one, as Gaudiya Vaishnavas, why don't we do this? We never tell people to do this when they come. We don't say sit there and meditate upon the heart and do all these things. We don't tell them that. We tell them, okay, get these books, take them with you, distribute them. Give them to so many people. Why? Because we're, to a great extent, the philosophy of Gaudiya Vaishnava, or the knowledge of the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition takes one to the ultimate stage of life very quickly. It immediately elevates one to the topmost platform of life, engaging in the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya. What better is that? That's why we're giving them these stacks of books. So they take it, and what do you do with 7 books? They're not going to try to read all that. They're going to hand it out to their friends. They've engaged in a spiritual process, in a complete spiritual process. The means and the goals are the same. So they're coming in touch with the super soul by doing this. Finally, they're engaging in the service of Krishna. So the super soul is pleased by that, and he then starts to give remembrance of his or forgetfulness, but particularly remembrance, or he gives the soul, he guides the living entity in so many different ways in order to come and receive these books, and then after receiving these books, finding their way here. We've had so many people like that. Those who are sincere enough to accept that guidance, of course. So, engaging in the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya is the perfection of our lives. And if we're not enthusiastic in doing so, then there's a chance that we'll lose it. The reason we're not enthusiastic is because we don't appreciate it. We don't understand it. So this book distribution, this chanting of the holy name, why do we say dance? Why do we say when you go out, be enthusiastic? Because it's Lord Chaitanya's, you're engaging in the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. You don't go out there and put a sad face on, oh my God, it's like another day on book distribution. Now it becomes some level of material to a great extent. You feel like you're just working a job. You feel like you're out here and you're just grinding it out. Yes, then it becomes material, because in your consciousness you're seeing it as a material thing. Therefore you're not enthusiastic, therefore everyone is moded out. But if you see it in the light of that this is a transcendental pastime of Lord Chaitanya that I can be an instrument of, independent of how sometimes so many books may go out and so many books may not go out. The anxiety should be there, because that's anxiety for Lord Chaitanya. But if we're not enthusiastic in our services, then there's a problem in our chanting, there's a problem in our hearing, there's a problem in our thinking. Because what's in your mind ultimately manifests what's in the physical realm too. So if we're thinking about Lord Chaitanya, if we've meditated upon how important this movement is and how important it is for me to be out there and be enthusiastic about what I'm doing, then we'll distribute many books. We can see that when we're enthusiastic, people take books from us. Why? Because the super soul is helping us. We got to understand this, that when we're out there, we have the greatest instrument of all time. So many people have, in order to see, they have cameras. So many people have some hearing equipment in so many different places. They have satellites, but we have something much better than that. We're servants of our spiritual master, who is deeply in touch with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the Guru gives us knowledge within the heart also. And so if we're sincere enough, we can access that. We have access to this. We have access to that realm of where we can beg the super soul, to allow them to take these books. So many times we've distributed books, they come in, you distribute them and get like $100, $60, $70, and then they walk away from your bubble and they don't know what the heck just happened, and they keep walking, put it in their car and go home. And you don't know what happens sometimes too. We've done some crazy stuff. Like you're just distributing books, and you're praying the whole time, and you're just having a good time, because when you're enthusiastic, when you read the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya, his associates just go insane. And sometimes, a lot of the time on book distribution, we feel the same way. Start screaming and going like Yeltsin. I was just showing him how to distribute books. He's like, oh, you have to be very good. I can't do it. I'm like, no, you don't. And then I just said, look, watch. So I just started screaming some random thing to this woman that was walking some other distance. I just said, Misa! I just screamed. And then I just said, please come over here. And she just came, and she bought a Saptarishi from me and walked away. And Nelson was just sitting there looking at me like, look, bro, it ain't no material thing. You don't have to do anything. You just have to be really enthusiastic, because Lord Chaitanya is pleased. Or like there's been a different time where these people came, it was the same day. It was like these two kids, and he was trying to distribute to them. He wasn't very enthusiastic, so they didn't stop. So then I was just messing with them, and I was talking to them. Halfway through, I said, you know what, I gotta go a little bit crazy. I walked out a little bit. I put my hands up, did like the 3-spin ballerina spin. I went back. I gave them the book. I said, can you? And then they gave me $10 and walked away. It's like insane to me. Like, it's just so many times I'm like, I don't know what just happened, and it's really ecstatic, and you get really enthusiastic. When my mind starts to get to me, I go, okay, I have to go crazy now. And I start screaming, and you just have to get very enthusiastic, and people appreciate that. So one has to get into book distribution. One has to be enthusiastic about it. And independent of the result, one stays detached. Because if one starts to meditate upon the result, sometimes it becomes a material thing within our minds. We create just like the rose, like Prabhupada is saying, it's not material, it's spiritual. Just like this book distribution is completely spiritual, but we can make it material. We can make it material. So we have the greatest instrument. We have the greatest instrument that's available to us. We have the super soul. Oh my God, so I'm sorry, I got 29, 20, I got one more minute. So we have the greatest instrument, and we should utilize that. We should not become depressed. We go out and we do the needful. Yes, it's difficult when you're sitting there and like, oh my God, I gotta go out today in so many hours. But you do it, and you go out there, and we get out there. If your mind starts to get to you, just start screaming. I was telling you, that's what I do. And I just start screaming at people because I don't know what to do anymore. I'm like, okay. And it works. And it's just like, I'm just stop the mind from getting in the way. The Harinamananda Prabhu, who is the best, who had the world record, said, what did you do? I just let my mind get out of the way. And that's literally, it's the field of the mind when you're out there. So we can utilize our greatest instrument we have. So I'll end my class there because I have to end. But if there's any questions or comments, quickly, no. Okay, that's it.
You have to read the quote.
Oh, I have to read the code. You just sent that to me, okay. All right.
So you have to read the title.
Title, it is this.
The first paragraph.
Mm-hmm.
And then you read
Oh,
a quote that says,
this
thank you very much for helping me in this way.
wow. Okay. So it is the Sankirtan.
Pick that up.
Okay, should I wait?
No, you can.
So it is the Sankirtan, which is the life and soul of our movement. And then, if we sin, so okay. Thank you very much for helping me in this way.
No. So read that. The quotes from Srila Prabhupada presented here.
Where?
It gives a context to the quote.
Oh, the quotes from Srila Prabhupada presented here are in chronological order to give a little feel for the evolution of Sankirtan and preaching in our Krishna consciousness movement. We can see how wonderfully Srila Prabhupada encouraged his devotees in their preaching efforts, going from street chanting and free pamphlet distribution to book printing and distributing as our most important activity, Hare Krishna. So, wow, this is a really amazing one. Thank you very much for helping me in this way. I'm very glad to hear from you the wonderful news of traveling party in England. And I think the people of that place are becoming more and more inclined for this Krishna consciousness movement. They are inviting you to stay at their houses. They are taking books, becoming sometimes devotees. All of them are very encouraging signs to me. If you simply go on in this way, stopping in every village and city of England, Scotland, or if there are other places like Ireland, simply stop for some time, distribute books, and hold Sankirtan processions. answer their questions, give some leaflets or some small information freely, distribute prashadam wherever possible, at least something. And if there's genuine interest being shown, then request the townspeople to arrange some engagement for speaking in their schools or in someone's home or a hall like that. In this way, remain always without anxiety for destination and comfortable situation, always relying only on the mercy of Krishna for your plan. Just go on preaching his message and selling his books. Wherever there is interest, because you are rightly understanding through your personal realization this philosophy of Krishna consciousness. Therefore, in such a short time, you have surpassed all the stages of yoga processes to come to the highest point of surrendering to Krishna. That I can very much appreciate. Thank you very much for helping me in this way. Hope this meets you and the other men of your party in the best of health and spirits. Letter to Prabhu Vishnu, January 3rd, 1973. Wow. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. May devotees of Krishna Life Atlanta continue to distribute thousands of Srila Prabhupada's books for his divine pleasure. Bhakti Vikas Swami, Canterbury, 31st July 2022. Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai. Namo Vishnupada Krishna.